Dear students, welcome to my fourth video lecture on thermodynamics. So the main purpose of my video lecture in thermodynamics is to just make the students very much aware of the fundamentals of thermodynamics. That is to enlighten the knowledge on the fundamentals of the thermodynamics. That is the main objective of that. By keeping this objective in mind, I released the three videos in the fundamental concepts of thermodynamics. In the third video, I explained you what is the various terms that we used. At the end of the video, I also told you that I'm going to explain the zeroth law of thermodynamics in detail in my next video. So in this fourth thermodynamics video, we'll see that zeroth law of thermodynamics in detail. Most of you are thinking that zeroth law of thermodynamics seems to be some trivial law that everybody could easily understand and make use of that thing. But we should understand that fundamentals of zeroth law of thermodynamics and what the extent it is very helpful. It's not just trivial because nowadays we understand the temperature in the literal world, so we are understanding the zeroth law of thermodynamics also like a trivial one. It's not so. So we'll see what is that zeroth law of thermodynamics in detail in this particular video. So take that zeroth law of thermodynamics. So there are the main purpose of the zeroth law of thermodynamics is to uh, give a guideline for the temperature measurement. Somebody will tell that this is a law of common sense. Yes, of course, this is a law of common sense. It's developed from the law of common sense, but it is very much scientific. That it is very helpful for us to define the temperature measurement methodologies. Okay, before going to the temperature measurement methodology, we'll see that we will recap what are the equilibriums that we discussed already in our thermodynamics classes. Say we discussed about three different equilibriums, that is mechanical, chemical, and thermal equilibriums. Out of the mechanical and chemical thermal equilibrium, the thermal equilibrium is the one which is very important as per the zeroth law of thermodynamics is concerned. Okay, if all the equilibriums exist, then we can call that as a thermodynamic equilibrium. That is, if all the three equilibriums exist, then we can say it is thermodynamic equilibrium. So in that previous video lectures, I explained you what is that mechanical equilibrium, chemical equilibrium, and thermal equilibrium. In that quick chart, I just tell you in the mechanical equilibrium that the forces are equal, and the chemical equilibrium there won't be any chemical reaction, and that species are all homogeneous, and in thermal equilibrium the temperatures are equal. Okay, nowadays that everybody is understanding that they are equal, but equal of what and what. So that is very important. So whenever you are talking about equilibrium, you are talking about the equilibrium of a system. So whenever you say equilibrium of system, you have to say that system is in equilibrium with its surroundings. So the interaction between the system and surroundings very much essential. But why? And that from the first lecture onwards, I'm putting a lot of emphasis on defining the system properly, because defining the system properly only will make you to understand the definition of its own surroundings, and also then the interaction between the system and surroundings also to be correctly gauged and correctly calculated, correctly understood. So whenever there is no interaction in terms of heat, that means that system and surrounding both are in same temperature, then we can call it as a thermal equilibrium. If there is no chemical reaction that is being occurred, that is crossing that boundary, some species is crossing the boundary from the surrounding to system or from the system to surrounding, then we can call that as a chemical equilibrium. If the system is not expanding, our system is not doing any work on the surroundings, or surrounding is not doing any work on the system, then we can call it as it is in mechanical equilibrium. So always whenever you talk about that interactions, whenever talk about the equilibriums, you have to talk about the interaction between a system and its own surroundings. So in a system is in equilibrium with its own surrounding, then there won't be any interaction in terms of mechanical, chemical, and thermal. That is what we call it as a thermodynamic equilibrium. In our zeroth law of thermodynamics, the thermal equilibrium is one which is very important. Okay, so now we'll see what is the thermal equilibrium in detail. Okay, in thermal equilibrium, the system and surroundings are in such a state that both are at same temperature. Time being, you please keep that in your mind. Temperature, as you are all aware in the literal world, that is temperature, somebody usually call it as a degree of hotness or degree of coldness, or I can say the temperature like a density of heat that is being accumulated at a particular point. Okay, time being, you just don't worry about the temperature. Once you we complete this particular lecture, you may have more insight into the temperature. Okay, when system and surrounding are in thermal equilibrium, there won't be any heat transfer crossing the boundary of the system, because always the interactions are to be calculated across the boundary here, the system boundary. We are not bothering about the surrounding boundary, so system boundary. Usually, surroundings also boundary, according to me, because the surroundings also having a restricted area only. That restricted area is not, restricted volume is nothing but up to which the presence of the system is felt. That is what the surroundings of the system. That is what I am having both a boundary for the system and surrounding. So here we are more worrying about the system. If the system and surroundings are not exchanging heat, then we can say they are in thermal equilibrium and their temperatures are equal. Okay, so that is what thermal equilibrium, that you have to understand before going to the zeroth law of thermodynamics. Okay, now very good. Now we'll see that what is the zeroth law of thermodynamics is telling that. Zeroth law says like this: if A and B and A and C are in thermal equilibrium independently. This is the keyword, that is independently. That means I have drawn it for the convenience like this, but actually A is like this way. You see this? A is in thermal equilibrium with B, and also A is in thermal equilibrium with C independently. When A is in equilibrium with B, no connection with C. That is what independent thermal equilibrium. So A is in thermal equilibrium with B and A is in thermal equilibrium with C independently. Then we can say B and C are in thermal equilibrium like this. B and C are in thermal equilibrium is, so A and B and A and C are in thermal equilibrium independently. Then we can say B and C are in thermal equilibrium. So this is induced, because we don't know whether B and C are in thermal equilibrium, but we know A and B are in thermal equilibrium, A and C are in thermal equilibrium independently. Okay, then B and C are in thermal equilibrium. This has to be understood. This is what the zeroth law says. This zeroth law can also be told in some other way. That is, if B and C are in the thermal equilibrium with a third component independently, same component, then we can say B and C are in thermal equilibrium. All are same. You can say the zeroth law of thermodynamics in that way also. Okay. Now, how this particular law is helping us to define the temperature measurement? How is it useful to construct the thermometers, that we will see now? Because the understanding of the zeroth law and its importance is very much essential for understanding the temperature definition. So, Anders Celsius, a Swedish scientist born in 1701, he developed this particular methodology using the zeroth law of thermodynamics at 1745. Okay, so zeroth law of thermodynamics is very much essential at this particular point. Okay, now how we develop this particular measurement, that is what very important. Okay, now you know very well a temperature is nothing but a degree of hotness or degree of coldness, or we have to what is that fix the numerical value of to this temperature for a particular system at a particular state. But how can we fix? Can we fix it arbitrarily? No, we cannot fix arbitrarily each and everything. We can fix some of the things arbitrarily, but some of the things will be dictated by the nature of nature's law. So we cannot fix each and everything arbitrarily. Now, some of the things that arbitrarily fixed, that is what Anders Celsius has done. What is that he has fixed arbitrarily? Yes, he has taken two things. One is the triple point of the water. You are all aware of the triple point of the water. That is solid, liquid, and gaseous state coexist. That is freezing point of water. Some of the books will tell this freezing point of water as a one reference point. This is one reference point. What is the second reference point he has taken? It's a steam point. Steam point or boiling point of water. Boiling point of water. See, both are at one atmospheric pressure. That is very important. At one atmospheric pressure, the triple point of water and or freezing point of water, steam point or boiling point of water. He has taken these two reference point because to develop a curve in any two-dimensional drawing, you require minimum of 2 points. Then only you can draw the curve. Okay. So he has assumed these two things. In this, first you see that this is ice bath. That is a freezing point of the water that he fixed as 0, and a boiling point of water that he fixed as 100. See, these two things are fixed arbitrarily here. So it is his wish. He developed that particular methodology. So 0 is going to be assigned to the freezing point. But this is not absolute 0. See, whenever we take the temperature absolute 0, that I will come to that later. This is not absolute 0. This is 0 he has assumed. Like if we want to measure it some distance, we fix this is 0. From there they are measuring. Like that they fixed the freezing point of water as 0, or the triple point of water as 0 degrees Celsius, and steam point or the boiling point of water as 100 degrees Celsius. That is what the Celsius fixed and did some analysis. We'll see that how he has proceed with this. What is that he has done? He has fixed in a graph. In a graph, say x-axis, this is y-axis. In x-axis, he marked the temperatures. In the y-axis, he measured some property of the substance. Say, for example, in his thermometer development, he measured the properties of the expansion of the mercury or whatever the thermometric fluid which he kept inside the thermometer. So that what he measured is that expansion, that is height. In this case, it is height because it is expansion only. Expansion is volume expansion, but here the cross section area is fixed. So you can see the variation in the height because of the expansion of the substance. So height is fixed. So he has fixed 0 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Celsius somewhere. He got some height. This say This is freezing point, that is triple point of the water. Say for 100 degrees Celsius, you may fix some height. This is steam point. Now he has to connect these two through a graph. Okay. Suppose this case he assumed a linear relation. That is what is achievement. That is assumption. He assumed it is a linearly connected. After that, if you extrapolate this, it will go and meet somewhere. Lesser than that, it won't go because this height cannot come to 0, because you cannot expect that substance completely disappear in the thermometer. That is not possible. It cannot go below this. So the lowest temperature that is possible is this particular temperature, some minus x degree D. That we will discuss afterwards. Okay. Now the triple point and the steam point he fixed and he correlated is as a straight line. He connected through the straight line. Now he got a very good temperature measurement possible because he can calibrate that. He knows the height 0 here, 100 here, and in between it subdivided into 100 equal parts. So 1, 2, 3, like that, 100 equal parts. Now, if you go and keep this particular thermometer any place, and if it is reads like this, suppose it is 46th level, so he put it as a 46 degree. This is 46 degree temperature. That is what is intention. Okay. So now we'll see how this particular methodology is being developed based on that zeroth law of thermodynamics. In this case, our that ice bath, this ice bath is A. Okay, and the thermometer is B. Thermometer is B. So then, what is C? What is C? C is nothing but a place where you want to measure. Place where you want to measure. Suppose I want to measure the temperature of a water in a vessel. Say, suppose I'll take some water in a vessel. I want to measure the temperature of this water. Where I can measure it as a 46 degrees Celsius, as I already mentioned. So this is going to be my C. Okay. Now, here the thermometer B is playing an important role. Thermometer B is in thermal equilibrium. Thermometer B is in thermal equilibrium with A. Okay, that is he marked as a 0 degree Celsius. Here 0 degree Celsius. Now suppose a beaker of water, instead of 46 degrees Celsius, it is reading as 0 degree. Time being, you assume there itself, here 0 degree it is reading. Okay, now the thermometer B is in equilibrium with C thermally, and in this particular case that B is in thermal equilibrium with A thermally. So B is in equilibrium with A and C thermally independently without having any connection. So I can say A and C are in thermal equilibrium according to zeroth law of thermodynamics. A and C are thermally equilibrium. But for the A, we fixed it is a 0 degree Celsius. So I can say C is also at 0 degree Celsius. The similar logic of discussion can be applied to the steam point of the water also. In this case also, suppose you are measuring some other place where the temperature showing as a 100 degree Celsius of some metal is showing 100 degrees Celsius. In this case, B is in equilibrium with the C. In the previous case, B is in thermal equilibrium with the A. So I can say A and C are in thermal equilibrium. But for that A, second case, that A is what I fixed is this one. This is the steam point in the second experiment. So A, this is A, the thermometer is B. Now this A, I presume that is 100, and here also it is showing 100 degrees Celsius. Now B is in thermal equilibrium with C. Similarly, previous case B is in thermal equilibrium with the A. So we can come to a conclusion A and C are in thermal equilibrium. Since I fixed the value of 100 degree to that A, I can say that C is also at 100 degrees Celsius. So the definition of zeroth law of thermodynamics is very much essential. That is, the trueness of the zeroth law of thermodynamics is very much essential for developing this type of thermometers. Not only this, here the thermometer has been developed based on the expansion properties of the material. Any material property can be used to measure the temperature using any thermometer. That's what we can say it as a general principle. This is a principle of thermometer. I can say that suppose if you take y-axis in some measured value and x-axis is properties for different temperatures, you can draw the different curves like this. So that is possible. Okay, so this is what the principles of thermometer. So the thermometer is basically designed based on the zeroth law of thermodynamics. Yes, very good. Now we'll see how this thermometer principles are used to define our absolute temperature scale. All of you might have seen the constant volume thermometer. In the constant volume thermometer, we have a fixed volume of the what is that bulb is there some quantity of gas is fixed in it. Okay, so this is how it should be. I just draw that here. Some fixed quantity volume is there. Okay, so we fixed some quantity here. Gas is filled, any gas for that matter. Okay, now this is going to be connected to a mercury column. Suppose if they keep it in the steam point, this will expand. We have fixed some arbitrary quantity of some gas. Say for example, gas A. I am having gas A. I filled some quantity so that the steam point I am having some pressure, some expansion. This will push the what is it mercury level. So there will be some difference in that mercury level. Just make a note of this. Okay. Similarly, for the same gas, I am going to put it as a triple point. So that is first one is steam point, second one is triple point. These two things that we can easily measure. Okay. So these two things we cannot have any value, but we can measure in terms of the height of the mercury. That is directly indicating the pressure inside. What is the steam state pressure and triple point pressure? These two things that I can measure it in terms of the height. So if you substitute, we can get T steam point by T triple point is equal to pressure of steam point divided by pressure in the triple point. This equation we can got it from the Boyle's law, because he told limit pressure tending to zero, pressure into volume is equal to constant, which is function of temperature alone. That is what Boyle's law proposed. So when we keep the volume constant, this is a constant volume gas thermometer. So when we fix volume, the steam point to triple point ratio for the temperature and pressures are going to be equal. Okay. Now, this is for a certain quantity of what is that substance. Suppose I am removing that certain quantity of gas A only. I am still using that gas A. I am removing certain quantity of gas and doing that experiment once again. I will get another set of T steam point and T triple point, because the quantity of matter is also very important, because in the steam point I am going to get the different pressure, definitely triple point also I am going to get the different pressure, hence you may get different values of that ratio. Okay, so now this is I reduce the pressure and calculated. Similarly, I am going on reducing the pressure at a triple point. Whenever I keep the triple point, I will remove certain quantity and I can do that experiment once again. So for the gas A, see, initially I keep it as a 400 units of pressure and I got this particular point. And I going on reducing, I'll get the different points for the different pressure range. The Psat by PTTP, that is steam point pressure divided by triple point pressure, I will get different values. You see, different values. The same experiment can also be done for the gases B and gases C. One peculiar thing that they observed is, whenever you do this, and if you are going on reducing that content in it, that is, you are reducing the pressure continuously, then we can expect the gas would definitely behave like an ideal gas. Okay, so ideal gases are all behaves the same way. That's why we will get some unique and constant ratio of pressure, steam point pressure to triple point pressure. That value goes close to 1.366049. This value is very, very important. Okay, what is the importance of this? That we'll see here. See, we know that steam point by triple point is going to be 1.366049 at very low pressure. In this case, it is also not depending on gases and its quantity. Now, for all the gases at this particular quantity, for all the gases, we are getting this ratio, steam point to the triple point, as a 1.366049. Okay, so this is very, very important relation. As our Celsius, that scientist Celsius, did his experiment to define his own scale, that is, we call it as a Celsius scale. 0 degree is attached to the ice bath, and 100 degree Celsius is attached to the boiling point of water at atmospheric pressure. The same way, we want to have 100 subdivisions between the triple point and steam point. So T steam minus T TB is equal to 100 as Celsius scale. So if you substitute this second equation into that first, we'll get this. So if you solve that, we'll get that beautiful value of that. Sorry. T steam point, triple point. Temperature at triple point is going to be 273.18, and the steam point is going to be just add 100 to that 373.18 Kelvin. So this particular temperature we call it as a absolute scale. Okay, so it is given as Kelvin. That unit is given as a Kelvin into the honor of Lord Thomson. Okay, later he called as Lord Kelvin. So it is the absolute scale. 273.18 Kelvin, 373.18 Kelvin as a steam point, which is equivalent to 0 degree Celsius and 100 degree Celsius. The same sort of logic we could apply for the English unit, British units also. There the triple point is 32 degree Fahrenheit and steam point is 212 Fahrenheit, and the corresponding absolute scale is 492 Rankine and 672 Rankine. Just adding 460 to the Fahrenheit scale, you will get the Rankine scale. Whenever you tell the temperature in the relative scale, this is relative scale and this is also relative scale. Whether it is Celsius scale or the Fahrenheit scale, you have to mention it as a degree Celsius or degree Fahrenheit. But whenever you tell an absolute scale, you have to say only Kelvin, not degree Kelvin. 273.18 Kelvin, 373.18 Kelvin. Similarly, 492 or 672 or that is 492 Rankine or 672 Rankine. That's why you have to be very careful in telling the temperature difference, because 20 Celsius degree, 20 Celsius degree is not equal to 20 degrees Celsius. Both are different. You have to be very careful in this. See, whenever you want to tell the difference between the two temperature, say for example, I am having one object A, another object B, okay, and its temperature is TA and the temperature is TB. Suppose TA minus TB is equal to 20 Celsius degree. There you should not put 20 degrees Celsius. 20 degrees Celsius means it is equivalent to an object which is having a degree of hotness equal to 20 degrees Celsius in the Celsius scale. That is what that meaning. So temperature difference should be always be told like 20 Celsius degrees in the relative scale. Whereas in the absolute scale, you can say 20 Kelvin or 30 Kelvin. Okay, that is what that major difference in the understanding of the temperature. Okay, so this is what some of the important things, the use of the zeroth law of thermodynamics. The zeroth law of thermodynamics is not a trivial one. It is not just like that. Yes, it has to be understood clearly how the zeroth law of thermodynamics has been used to develop the thermal measurement, the temperature measurement. So how the zeroth law of thermodynamics used to develop the process for the temperature measurement or to develop the thermometers. So it is very essential law. Some of them are considered this a very trivial and just skip over it. Please don't do that. Just have a thorough knowledge about what the zeroth law of thermodynamics and how it is used in our thermodynamics. So thank you very much. This is what this lecture is all about. In my next video, we'll discuss some more terms like macroscopic, microscopic, and also we'll discuss properties in detail, intensive properties, extensive properties, when we call a particular entity as a property. because you cannot call all the things as a property. Some of the things are all called property, some of the things are not called as property. For example, heat is not a property, whereas temperature is a property. What is the difference this between these two? Will explain in my fifth video. Okay, thank you very much.